we literally didn't touch it for. We're back. We literally didn't touch it for like 3 hours.
Alright.
I must have it set to like 3 hours for sleep mode or something. But like I'm pretty sure we were recording.
What was it? What were we even talking about?
Do sex with the.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I was talking about how So Ethan and I had a long discussion about like I at first I had an issue with like Aang, like I felt like Aang should.
Oh yeah.
I felt like Aang should.
His motive for not wanting to kill the Fire Lord.
I originally thought that was stupid. I was like, no, he should have killed him. Like that's just stupid. And it wasn't. And I realized that's no, because that is the point of the show. Like that is the moral and the point and the reasoning for the show. And I'm okay with that. And no, I like that.
Everybody
like that.
deserves a second chance.
Yes, I do like that.
It's like the whole point. Yeah.
Yes.
And then
The part that I was actually I realized that the part that I was actually frustrated with was the turtle. The lion turtle giving him the power to just like
remove bending
was what I was actually frustrated with, because it's just like, what the heck? And we did talk about that night. I was like, you could have hinted at this more. Like the library episode shows him looking at a book with a lion turtle. It's like, why not during that episode explain what the lion turtle was in some way?
Oh, library episode is a perfect time for a shit ton of like foreshadowing and expositional dumps.
Yeah.
If there was ever a time for an info dump, it was it's a library episode.
Yes.
Like, and I'm not really sure how many other shows have a quote unquote library episode, but
they did it.
they did.
And they didn't use it, and they didn't use the foreshadowing of the turtle outside of a picture.
If there was a time to do it.
You could have foreshadowed it. You could have. So like, if there was anything, that would have fixed the situation slightly. It still would have been a Deus Ex Machina, but
it wouldn't have been quite as bad.
It wouldn't have been quite as bad.
Real quick, this is off topic, but you've played Sonic Adventure 2?
Yeah, I have. No, he is.
Okay, so you know, because like the Bio Lizard comes out of the end out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But
just like,
in like one of the scenes where Rouge is like hacking into Eggman's computer, there's like a little tiny image of the Bio Lizard at the corner. And that's the foreshadowing. It reminded me of that. Where like there's like one little picture, so like that's the foreshadowing. You know,
it's like
it doesn't work like that.
Yeah. Like you could have actually foreshadowed by at least explaining what this was, or like he's like, oh man, look at this cool lion turtle. It's like they were
they're actually
big.
super intelligent and can remove bending, or like maybe that's
like
more ham-fisted than necessary.
Well, yeah, but it's like it's like the he could have said that like Aang could have been like like they could have had some dialogue of like well, like you could have had like Sokka be like, oh, does Lion Turtle have any like powers against the Fire Nation, like or something of that nature, and him be like, does taking away bending count? He goes, yeah, okay. Are you gonna learn that? He goes, no, probably not. Or like something of like that stupid nature. Like it'd still be a Deus Ex Machina, but like
and well, at least
you could have had like
a little bit.
you could have had something in that library.
I mean,
outside
so
of a picture.
and then the other thing you and I discussed was they could have brought it back a lot more throughout season 3. Like instead of having multiple, more or less filler episodes, like the Lady of the Lake or the river, whatever the fuck it is, where Katara becomes an eco-terrorist. You could have easily had, there was no Spirit World episode in season 3. You could have had, Aang.
Well, no, that was the kind of the Spirit World.
I mean, but like, if we're the Spirit doesn't come until the end, and it's like just to thank Katara.
You mean to allude and foreshadow it.
But like Spirit, like going into the Spirit World, you know what I mean?
There wasn't an actual going into this.
He never goes into the Spirit World. I'm not even sure if he goes into the Spirit World in like season 2, other than the whole chakras thing.
3 he does.
When?
3 he does. That's when the whole Roku episode.
I mean, yeah.
Well,
It- I'm talking.
that's focused on a completely different.
Yeah, him
Okay,
convening
yeah.
with his past lives is not the same thing as like in season one where he's like running around the spirit world. I gotta find the moon spirit, or I gotta find
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
Heibai. Like that was a part of a magical thing in season one that never really came back in season three, and like barely came back in season two that they totally could have like nailed home. Um,
They could have, even though it wasn't really in season two, they could have. You're right. They could have nailed it home that like this is something
and
Yeah,
that
at least possible.
yeah.
that would have been a great way to introduce energy bending, taking away bending. That would have been a great way to like show like foreshadow build up to it. Additionally, you and I talked about this. Ko, the face stealer from season one, such a really cool character, unique character, and he's like, oh, you have to like give something to get something, and it's like, you think Aang's gonna give up Katara or something. He's like, you have to give me a face or whatever. You think he's gonna give him Aang's face, or Aang's gonna give him his face, and it's this like whole weird thing. If anything, they could have worked it in a way where Aang learns energy bending from Ko, or he's like, I will show you the way, a power many presume to be considered unnatural, and or something like that, or Aang gives Ko Ozai's face. You know what I mean? Like something like that could have easily been brought back with, even if it was a Deus Ex, like the very end of season three in the movie, instead of the lion turtle, Aang ends up in the spirit world with talking to Ko. It still would have been a Deus Ex, but at least would have been an established character.
Yeah,
And I could have bought that. I would have been like, okay, cool, this guy is coming back.
The lion turtle is so weird because he doesn't even talk to him. Like he's like, "Yo, what the heck?" And like the lion turtle is
Just like spouts his shit, and you can't hear it.
Like terrible audio.
And it's like, and goes, maybe you can help me. I want to defeat the Fire Lord without killing him. And he goes,
I have just the technique for you.
it's like,
E.T.
yeah, it's literally E.T. Except with two fingers, because he lights them up too.
But
Dude,
yeah,
I'm
so
gonna
that
try
was, like,
energy bending in jujitsu, dude. Next match, next practice I go to, I'm just gonna fucking
Because what, he holds him by the head and then
the forehead and the chest, dude. I'm gonna energy bend my opponent. Yeah, see what happens.
See how they react.
What?
See how they react.
Yeah.
And that could have even been like a thing where like, you know, you don't want to use this like foreshadowing it. Like, don't use this because if, you know, you get overpowered, then they take your bending or whatever. You know, so like you can't just use it on anybody.
Yeah.
You can only use it in like spots where you need it.
You know it was like extremely last minute because like when he starts to do it, he starts to the lion turtle is speaking and it's like to in order to bend in order to bend somebody else you need to be able to give yourself up. Like as they're doing the final like glow, it's like okay, you really are sure. You
And
really
this,
sure.
what makes that even more, because what you said before about him getting like hit in the back, where like that's already like
A Deus Ex.
kind of a Deus Ex anyway.
Yes.
Or like that one's I'm willing to forgive that one a lot more individually.
From
by
the-
itself, but like when you put the two together, it's like all right, like come
It's
on.
worse. Because like I explained to you like at least the back thing makes sense because it's like
And
okay.
the back thing never goes away. They always make a point to like show that on his back, like through the whole season.
Yeah, like
The back thing, at least it's like the old scar tissue is being hit again in a very like high tense situation. However, the other thing that I do have a problem with is like he never fixes his chakras. He like won't give up Katara, and that's why he can't access the Avatar state. Or even if I guess
My
the
argument is that
mechanisms.
he did give up Katara because he was entering the Avatar
Okay.
state before he got zapped. Like
Even-
he
but-
literally closes up himself and goes, he says, "I'm sorry, Katara," and then closes up himself, and then he's like, and then that's when he goes to give up Katara.
See, the way that
Because, like-
that episode goes, it's
Because it
like
clearly shows
he.
that all the other avatars have or a lot of the other avatars have relationships and get married. Like,
Right, but-
they show that.
The way that episode goes is like he's falling. Like after he gets shot, like everything's falling, and I mean even if he does give her up and he unlocks his last chakra, that's still his injury there has still like fucked everything up, and he didn't have to go through like a narrative process to to fix that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
there's
that
also,
could have like
It's
that
an unsatisfying resolution narratively.
yeah, and
Well,
that could
I
have
mean,
been your
regardless
that
to me, it's also
But-
Like
like
the lore says.
he's also learning from an old guy who like
clearly like on something.
exactly.
like-
so like who like yeah he's been around for. Wait, how old is that guy? Is he like thousands of years old, or is he just like
He's old,
alive
dude.
during the time?
I think he's just they don't say he's just fucking old.
Okay, because like my concept was that like he just knew about the history. He was an old guy of their time period, right? Of their time period, and they just like he just knew a lot about the Avatar state.
That's
He doesn't do any bending.
that was my impression as well.
So like, what if there was a mistake because there were no avatars for 100? You know, like there was no avatar for 100 years. What if
But I
it's
mean,
wrong?
unlocking your hypothetically like unlocking your chakras would be something good for any person to do, not just the Avatar. So like he would still know his shit.
Well,
But-
yeah,
but
like, then why do all
here-
the other avatars love? I find that love is like kind of a bullshit reason for like not being able to go into the avatar state, seeing that other avatars obviously fall in love, and Roku references love throughout. Anytime you like talk to him, he references love. So it's like, why is love the thing holding Aang back from the avatars? It just,
Dude, I mean, it's kind of like
that argument just doesn't make sense to me because of Roku and how much
I
he
think
references.
it's not love. It's like overly being overly attached. But that's not either way. That's not really the point I was trying to get at. Is like he still never resolves the
Yeah,
fucked
so-
up Avatar state plot, and that is like a clear that could have totally been their way into the spirit world.
Oh,
He's
okay,
like,
okay.
okay, I need to go into the spirit world to figure out how to
Yeah,
access the
yeah.
Avatar state, and like how do I fix myself? And in that process, that's where he kind of like meets with Ko again, meets with Heibai again, and
Yeah,
uncovers the
Yeah,
energy
That's
bending.
what, like, I
That-
think regardless of
Okay, yeah,
That would have been more
yeah.
satisfying of an ending to me.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
It's like regardless
yeah.
of the whatever you think of, like the last chakra being love or whatever, like that the show sets that up, but then never really resolves it.
Yeah, whether
At least narratively.
that's
Like,
that's my
maybe-
point.
maybe
Yeah.
Potentially does lore-wise, depending on your interpretation.
I wonder if they would have.
Narratively, there's no resolution.
I really
Yeah.
do wonder how much of the show would have been different if Mako didn't die. Because you know for a fact Iroh would have done something with Aang. I feel like Iroh would have done something with Aang. For
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
I feel like they would have. I know they set up Zuko to be the teacher.
Yeah.
But like you know, Iroh knows so much about the spirit realm. You know what I mean? Like he knows so much about the spirit realm. Like he does know about it. Like he's seen dragons. Like the man says seen dragons. Like and like he knows about the moon spirit and it's like, yo, dude, don't fuck with that shit. Like, you know he knows all about that shit. Like I wonder if he might have talked to Aang in some way.
I mean, obviously I have no idea, but like I wonder how much the show would have been different if Iroh would have been, or if Mako would have been alive.
That's a fair point because yeah, because there's no way
He's
Iroh.
so MIA for most of.
Yeah.
And for how good and loved of a character he was, there's no way he actually would have been like. I know why they did it, and I'm glad they did it the way they did, but I'm wondering how much different would have it have been if Mako would have been alive. Like, obviously what they did was still great and amazing, but like I'm curious, you know, it's one of those things like, like. What if Momo had a gun? Yeah. You know I had to reference
Dude,
that.
we're just, to quote Drew Organ, it's just chimp brain. The human is just a chimp brain. We're trying to handle all this shit, and a chimp brain with a gun. Momo with a gun, dude. Chimp brain. Cracked out chimp brain, dude.
Dude, like, why didn't Appa just like crush into the capital of the Fire Nation and just kill Ozai?
Dude, he's made of flesh. He's heavy, but he's not a battering. He's not dense. He's
10 tons, dude. 10 tons.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that doesn't mean his skull is built like a battering ram. His skull is made out of bones. It's gonna crack like any bones.
Flying bison multiple times throughout
Dude,
the first
you guys
season.
know the meme where it's the dude, he's just like laying in bed very like deadpan. It's like me, my wife, and her $1,000 fucking Marpeep, or like giant ass Pokemon body pillow she's cuddling with instead of him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Somebody adapted that meme, but it's Katara in the foreground, like laying deadpan. It's like me, my husband, and his 10,000-pound flying bison.
Dude, I like.
I'll see if I can find that.
I'm gonna Google search because there's no way Appa's actually 10 tons. I don't.
Dude,
believe that.
it doesn't
There's no,
matter,
like,
dude.
yeah, like,
Either
that's
way,
more dense than, like,
no matter how
fucking.
big he is, he's not
What
a
if he
battering
actually
ram.
was?
He's not just a
'Cause if he
battering
actually-
ram.
He'd have his own
He
fucking
was.
gravitational pull. Dude. Like, people be fucking slapping against him.
If he actually was 10 tons, bro, you know he could have just destroyed the capital by landing on it.
According to his missing
That's
posters
yeah.
and a statement made by Aang, Appa weight was 10 tons. The warriors of Kyoshi Sokka referred to Appa as a 10-ton magical monster. But how is he actually like 10 tons? Like actually? We're gonna have to go some like game
Well-
theory on this shit.
Is he
Film theory.
is he actually 10 tons? Like I don't believe it, but like the amount of times they reference it is like, bro, like is he though? Is he though?
He do be kind of thick.
Dude,
He do
I'm-
be kind of double thick.
I mean, bro, like, think about how big of like a semi trailer truck, like a tractor trailer is, dude. Like, it's pretty heavy. Appa's pretty big, dude. Like, you know. But yeah. Any other thoughts, boys? We're at like hour 3. And I think we've kind of. I think we've kind of exhausted this topic.
So how do you
Well,
think
no,
it-
overall thoughts of the
So
of
ending-
the
the
show.
ending.
Well, I guess what was you? Well, I guess yeah, the ending.
Overall thoughts on the ending, you mean?
I guess I don't know.
Well, and the show. Well, let's go with you first because you just watched it.
I don't know. I mean, I love the show overall. I think book 1's like really meanders.
Yeah.
Beginning of book 2, same thing. Book 3's filler is a lot better, but then it kind of goes into the problem where like everybody else decides not to. You know, we just talked about it. Everybody else decides that they're not gonna do anything before the comet, and then like you know that whole situation arises. So it's not perfect by any means, but the characters are amazing. The lore and just it's very creative too.
Yeah.
That's one thing. It's like
It's very, very unique.
It's very creative, and it's very. I like when shows take their kind of lore and continuity very seriously.
Yeah.
Not like overly serious necessarily, but it treats it with a certain amount of respect. Where like, with one exception, with the forehead guy, everything kind of makes complete sense around the bending.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where like, Earthbenders, they have the very rigid, stance, and they can't really bend like wood or like normally metal or
Right.
or like there's technically water in like pretty much everything, so like that makes sense. You can pull the water out of the flowers or the the trees or your blood, so like that kind of continuity is really appreciated. I like a lot of the fights. I'm not like really like a fight scene type of like lover, but I was pretty interested by a lot of the fights in the series.
There's a lot of three-dimensional fights.
Yeah.
There's a lot of characters that have that are like. I mean, Aang, the titular character is fucking like flies. So
Yeah.
like you have a 3D
So I mean that makes it
battle
a
space.
little easier to create kind of three-dimensional like
Fights.
fight choreography.
You very like unique fight choreography.
Yeah.
Alright, yo, dude,
So-
I found a Reddit thread about this.
Of course, dude.
Sky Bison.
The title is Sky Bison are super dense
Yeah.
with an exclamation point. Alright. The first like thread of the discussion is if air bison weigh 10 tons, that's 20,000 pounds, or 2 African elephants. Okay. Appa does not look like he is 2 African elephants. Big,
And he flies. by the way.
big meaning his muscles must be super dense! Exclamation point. And then like
You know what they say about big bones?
people are like, what? But he can fly. But the big argument is that, well, they airbend. They're the first airbenders, so like obviously they can fly because they're airbenders. They're manipulating the air to fly.
Thank you.
Right?
Yeah.
But somebody goes, but he floats. Guy replies, yes, we all know he floats. He flies throughout the entire show. We get that. And the guy goes, I mean, float on water.
Well,
Because he literally,
Well, floating on water
swims.
is like there's a lot more to floating on water. It's like with water, like area displacement and shit like that. But that's like how like cruise ships can float, even though they're
Dude,
like,
you know how fucking heavy an aircraft carrier is.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I guess that.
And also like I mean that's something that's made out of metal, which is inherently denser than water, which like a fucking human or animal
because of the
body
area
is.
displacement with the
Yeah.
forces and shit. It's all.
But a human and or animal body doesn't really have to worry about
I'm not-
area displacement because
not
it's
awake
inherently
enough to fully explain.
less dense than water. So the dude's argument about Appa floating shows complete disregard for the way physics works. All right, we're in the 4th hour of this podcast, Peyton.
Alright.
Let's wrap it
Show's
up.
good.
Show's amazing. Show's actually
Voice
incredible.
acting's really good.
Probably the best kid show I would say ever.
The best
in
kid
terms
shows
of-
are the ones that are not necessarily aimed at kids, or they're not condescending to kids.
It's all demographics.
Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a big proponent of like not talking down to kids in media. Not that I like have any authority on that subject or anything, but
They deserve to have just
Yeah.
as mature content as everyone else. So
I mean maybe not like gore and like fucking
Well-
like sex, but like
obviously,
generally speaking, yeah.
Right.
when it comes to like serious topics like death and like I mean even like as we've seen with like torture and stuff, they have the right to understand that it exists.
It helps them grow better, I think too. Even I mean most kids.
I think it
it's
helps
not-
them
it's
learn
not gonna be
the dangers of the real world.
But yeah, the show's darker and it's really good. Funny in the right parts, dark in the right parts.
I have some like nitpicks. The biggest one being the book one thing, but honestly, it shouldn't
Yeah, book one is
It,
more or less a
it doesn't
filler.
like make the show like bad or anything. It's still like a great show.
Yeah, book one is basically a filler, though. In hindsight, it really is just a filler. The fact that because you mentioned that you skipped all of book one. No, you're not the only person
Yeah.
I talked to about it that also skipped book one. A lot of people have, and the fact that you can just do that really goes to show that
It's like an afterthought in the grand scheme of things.
yeah, it really is it really is a filler. Like it introduces the main game.
All
but,
killer,
like,
no filler.
Huh?
All killer, no filler. Psalm 41.
The whole show's filler. Might as well not even watch it, honestly.
It's not dense at all.
It's all filler episodes.
It's filler for your life. Like, what the fuck, dude? You know, like, there's no substance of like your everyday life in the show, so why even watch it?
Not dense.
It's not
It's
not
not
dense.
dense. Not dense.
Dude, we should have a density meter.
It's like it rhymes.
A dense. Yo, is that a density? Is that a rating?
So
Like, that's our rating.
Dude,
for
Appa
the
is
show?
so dense, dude.
Appa's
So
so
dense.
dense. Appa's so dense, dude. Yeah.
Alright, so why don't you give your opinions?
I give on the density meter. I
The
give
density.
It, I give it a 9 out of 10. I give it a 9 out of 10. It loses that one dense point for the big Deus Ex Machinas and the filler of season 1. Really brings that dense down to a 9. It's so close to a 10, but that dense meter is definitely at a 9 for me. Solid 9, right? Solid 9. Those points make it. Yeah. So love the show. Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've met like one person who had anything negative to say about the show. Pretty much everyone I know really, really likes the show. Very, very important topics covered at a very accessible level. Excellent,
TVY7.
excellent example of world building and fantasy writing, and immersive immersion in a fucking made up world.
World building.
Massively underrated. Not I don't want to say underrated, but forgotten. This is something we kind of forgot to talk about at the beginning, but up until it re-released on Netflix, a lot of people, when they would talk about great television shows, they would just they'd be like, Breaking Bad,
I think
great
that's
Game of
kind
Thrones.
animation in kind of a nutshell, though.
It's animation.
What?
It's
Yeah.
a mixture of animation
And then
and
it's not
Nickelodeon.
quite. It's not
And-
quite
Well,
anime, so
but
it
it's-
doesn't really have.
The anime crowd fucking
Exactly.
repping it,
Yeah.
and it's also targeted at children, and so that's why we're talking about it here is
Yeah.
because it did not get talked about enough.
Well, also,
And we should not make it normal for people to talk about good shit.
yeah, but also, I think another partake in that factor is Nickelodeon.
They're the worst.
They're the worst.
Yeah, we've talked about we've covered that before
They're the
though.
worst. Why didn't they ever replay Avatar? What the fuck?
Because
They
they're
just-
busy playing SpongeBob, dude. They have to play SpongeBob every second that a new show isn't playing.
Yeah, if you actually look at the runtime for SpongeBob, it's actually fucking ridiculous. It's literally
It's
on
like
all the
it's
time.
10 to 12 hours a day, probably.
Yeah.
Dude, fuck cable.
No other shows exist.
Well, I guess you have Nick at Night that cuts into that, so it's probably not quite that bad. But
Dude, Nick at
It's
Night,
bad.
George Lopez.
so I don't even call it Nick at Night anymore. I don't think, but whatever.
Whatever. Anyway, yeah.
Do you have a
fantastic
rating or
show.
anything, or do you care about
Uh,
giving a rating?
Yeah, do you have
I'm
a
not sure if I agree with Peyton that a density rating can be boiled down to a numeric one out of 10 system. So I'm just gonna say it's pretty fucking dense.
It's pretty fucking dense.
I don't know in the hierarchy of density where that falls, but I'd say it's pretty fucking
Pretty
dense.
fucking
It's
dense.
pretty fucking
So,
dense.
If I had to give it a rating, because I didn't give it a rating before, I would say either a really strong 8 or a light 9.
Okay.
So maybe not. I don't know if I just like didn't like it quite as much as you, or maybe I'm like kind of penalizing book one a little more than you do. But definitely, I mean, I have a pretty strict grading. Like I love, like especially like looking at my anime list. Like I have like a lot of really good shows at 8. So like even if it was an 8, like it would be better than a lot of those. So I mean, that's not a like IGN 8, like the game's bad kind of like rating. That's like it's a really good rating. Maybe not the
It's
best.
got a
thing
little
I've ever
something
seen,
for
but
everyone.
It's got a little so.
It's a little something for everyone.
It really makes you. It really makes you feel like Aang.
It really makes you feel like the Avatar.
But
like
like
really
book,
makes you feel
but,
like a blue person.
but book one had too much water.
Too much.
Book one had too much water. Too much water.
Dude, the blue aesthetics in book. There's so much blue aesthetics in book one. It got so annoying. Like-
He's actually being critical about it.
Like visually, there's so much blue in book one. Book three probably is the most diverse color, but maybe that's just because it's a lot of earth tones.
Yeah,
'cause it's
Earth. Book 2 is a lot of yellow.
Yeah, but I feel like I like that the best.
Dude, I don't
Book
know.
three, so much red and black. There's so much red and black in
Like, what
book
the
three.
fuck were they thinking?
I love that all the
Why would they make book three fire about and like have all the color schemes be red? Like what the fuck was
yeah,
there?
dude, I mean, I like that they're intentional, pretty intentional with their colors. It's just like
no, they are.
it's a lot.
It is a lot. It is like it's just they make it like so
It's like-
blatant. It's like, yo, dude, like you calm your tits. We get that we're in the Fire Nation. You don't need to make everything fucking red. Like,
Yeah, pretty much.
and then the same with the same with all the other nations. You're right, Earth is the most, but like as soon as they're embossing, say everything's fucking.
Yeah, dude, because in America, every house is painted red, white, or blue, or all three. Every house, or black. It's just the only. We only paint everything our national colors. Yeah.
All right.
We're gonna say that's a wrap, guys.
It is
So
a
dense.
wrap.
It's like the
Thank you all for watching. Sorry, if this was not. Thank you all, 0 of you for watching.
at fucking 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
3:40. Jesus. I gotta like shit.
Go. We'll go.
Take off the
I
headset
will go
first.
do that.
Yeah, take off the headset first. It's not a wireless one, so.
So yeah, thank you everyone for watching. Crash on the Couch will be broadcast more frequently from here on
I'll
out.
actually upload the past 2 episodes.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll actually upload the last 2 episodes and this one. So.
And yeah, Peyton lives here, so it won't be as bad.
Yes. That'll be great. It's gonna be great.
It's gonna be great.
It's gonna be great.
So dense.
So dense. So dense. Alright. Have a happy 4th, everybody.
Good morning, everyone. Have an American night.
Look back to when midnights broke their sleep. Awaken our memories of when we would make believe. Collide.